the world of SIPs does not exist for us. We can't have systematic because, is lump sum the only way? And I think you have some very strong views about this entire world of SIPs.
I am against the idea of starting an SIP. I'm not against the idea of investing.
Beautiful.
I'm not against
I hear drum rolls. Go ahead.
No, I'm not against the idea of investing in mutual funds. I'm just against the idea of starting SIPs because there are many people who say if you do an SIP, you will become disciplined. An investment product cannot make you disciplined. Either you are disciplined or you're not. It is a mental state of mind. Somebody else or giving money to somebody else can't make you disciplined. That's just silly. That's propaganda, right? So what I would recommend is just invest when you can. Don't fret too much about it.
The sense of calm and relief coming down on us, Pattu, with those simple words.
It is just that make sure these steps are in place so you now have a proper foundation. I mean, if a wind blows, maybe the top 2 floors of your financial castle will break down, but your foundation will remain intact at all times.
Hello and welcome to Let's Get Rich with Pattu. This is an episode we've been looking forward to for a long time and for a variety of reasons. Before I introduce our very special guests on this show, and very talented guests on the show, I'd like to add, Pattu, earlier on in the show, you had said something that stuck with me, right? The biggest obstacle to achieving financial independence or financial freedom or a retirement corpus is not market volatility. It is the constant redemptions or interruptions in your investments towards this sum.
True. Yeah.
And that for me was a mind-opening thought, right? And I looked back and for some reason it also hurt. And I couldn't understand why. So I had to think about it a little bit and understand it because I have interrupted investments very often. I have redeemed once or twice in my life because there was simply no other option. And then slowly the thought started to grow. And I realized all the other financial advice out in the market, in the influencer space, in the online space, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, is always somehow skewed towards the salaried class of people in India. And I certainly don't come from that class. And my really close friends, Rhea and Varun on this show, don't come from that class. And maybe that's why it kind of stuck and that's why it struck a nerve. And I started to think about, are we excluded from this world of financial independence? Is financial independence even possible for us? And then I saw a really cool podcast episode, by the founder of Zerodha. He was interviewing, it was an entire topic about ChatGPT, it had nothing to do with finance. And yet on that show, Varun and Rhea, a really talented Indian who started these really cool companies, mentioned how only 10% of India's earners are the salaried class. And that said, whoa, why is all this only towards such a small market? Of course, let's not take that at face value. It could be a larger percentage. Online, if you search, some government websites put it at around 20-25%. But yet, a huge number of Indians are Uber drivers, are teachers, are actors, are writers, are solopreneurs. They own shops, they're proprietors. How does this huge population think of retirement? And with that long introduction, for which I apologize, Varun and Rhea, so glad to have you on board. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do.
So I'm an actor and a Pattu trainer. Pattu is a martial art form, just for a little brief. So I've been self-employed only since the past 5 years now. And I'm also a visiting faculty at one of the school called CNMS by SVKM. Where I teach theatre arts. It's just as a visiting faculty. Yeah, that's it about myself.
And I do everything actually that is creative. I write, I act, I sing sometimes. So yeah, that's what we do, and we are in the entertainment business. I'm in the entertainment business for the past 10-11 years after I left my job. I left my job in 2013, and now I'm here.
I thought this couple, Varun and Rhea, was very interesting. Pattu, how are you doing, by the way? I've not even asked you about that. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to talking about this.
Yeah, it is. It's such a topic that hits home, right? The reason we thought Rhea and Varun be an ideal couple for this show is because both of them living together are both solopreneurs or freelancers, right? I see a lot of couples where one is in a corporate job and the other then gets the freedom too. And I thank my stars for my wife for giving me the opportunity to kind of run a business, etc., etc. But here the couple is both freelancers / solopreneurs. Pattu, how do we look at us overall? What is there a chance for us?
There's a chance for everybody, but I think the steps to stabilize the financial situation is a lot more tougher for somebody who is non-salaried. So when I say non-salaried in the show, it would mean freelancers, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, shopkeepers, anybody who does not have a constant monthly flow of income, right? And it fluctuates, it varies, it depends, it's project dependent and so on. So for the salaried, the steps are quite simple. You have to establish a nice emergency fund to handle unexpected expenses. An emergency fund typically recommended is something that is equivalent to 3 months expense for a start, and then you build it up to about 6 months or maybe even 12 months worth of expenses over time. And then it's all about getting yourself a life insurance and a health insurance. And that's it. And after that, the salaried person can start investing and look at their future goals, find out when they will achieve financial independence or when they will not, and so on. So it's as simple as that. And for the salaried, you already have a group health insurance policy offered by the employer. So many people don't even bother to get themselves a private health insurance, which they should, but they don't. Or at least they can delay that decision because they have something to fall back on. And many employers also even offer life insurance. So many aspects are taken care of. And as long as the salaried person does not do something terrible decision-wise, they don't do something, make wrong choices, they have every chance of, getting themselves reasonably wealthy over time. But things are very, very different for the non-salaried because they're not going to get regular income. They're going to get a huge project for some people, for example, freelancers, and that's going to keep them in business for some time. And then they can handle expenses with that for the next few months, and then things will dry up. Then you have force majeure situations like COVID. You have all sorts of recessions coming in. Then you suddenly out of projects. Suddenly the guy who's paying you doesn't have any money to pay you with. And all sorts of things can happen. And in the movie industry, it's crazy. There are people who say, I have money, I'll pay you. And then when it comes to the payday, they'll say they won't. I suddenly say, I'll give you the next job, then you can, I'll compensate you there and so on. So it's nuts. It's not, I know a little bit about the industry because I'm a big movie fan. So I try to watch one movie a day. So, all right. So
let me interject there a little bit. There was a very famous viral show called Scam based on the great Harshan Mehta, part of which Varun was part of that show, right?
Nice.
And I use that example because sometimes payments seem to be a scam for our industry, right? We can wait 1 month, we can make 6 months, 9 months, and it just doesn't come. And we feel like we're talking to a wall. They'll just, put you from one person to the other. So, Pattu, if you'll allow me, if I can ask Varun and Rhea at this early stage of the podcast, what are the biggest financial issues you face? Why don't you define it? This podcast is all about you.
So basically, I think because I've never been a salaried person. So yeah, even I've been in this industry for the past 10 years. And for the first 5 years, I was just giving out to doing plays and learning process and everything. So of course, there was nothing coming in pocket. So I used to take a lot of help from my parents, and my parents are very nice. They do help out. But yeah, after a point, you need to grow up. And after that, I've been self-employed. But after that also, I think I'm a spendthrift. So shopping and all these things. So I never understood the meaning of saving until we moved in. So I have actually in a natural process, I've grown up since the past 1.5 years. when the rent comes in between, and where you have to feel that okay, now we have to save for this thing, that thing, and there are I conduct classes too, so the traveling part. So yeah, now I've started saving a bit. I've cut down on a lot of luxurious uh, leisure stuff that I used to do. Of course, I do go on vacation, but with those saving. But again, in the end, nothing really comes in pocket. So जो चल रहा है वो बस चलते ही जा रहा है. It's like that with me for now. But yeah, I've made some. I've opened like a fixed deposit, which is I think very like a common process, but
a grown-up
just-
thing to do.
yeah, a grown-up thing to do. So I've started now that, and just in a mutual fund because my one of this friend of mine who's in finance, luckily, he was like, "Arey, what are you doing? You're just spending. You're giving rent also now. So you start saving, start saving, sir." So then I started saving even like 1,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees or whatever comes in my way, and whatever I can save, I do that monthly.
What about you, Varun? What is your...
So I used to have a good investment plan until I was working until 2013 because I was salaried. So I was salaried, so every month I could afford to just go. And at that point I was young also. So इतना कोई खर्च था नहीं. I was single. पेरेंट्स से भी कोई इतना प्रेशर था नहीं. So I used to हाँ ठीक है I'll give it HDFC कर दो, म्यूचुअल फंड का ये कर देंगे, ऐसा कर देंगे, वो सब हो जाता था. But then since I left the job, then there's no salary.
Tell me, when you were doing all those mutual fund investments, even when you were salaried, was there any target? Was there any target amount?
No.
Right.
I was doing it only because
you felt it right.
fashionable.
Yeah. It was fashionable. Wow.
Okay. Rest of my, the colleagues were doing, "Arey, have you invested? Investment karna padega." So I'm like, okay, ठीक है. But I was 24. I was 23 at that point. So I was just doing it up because of peer pressure. कि, हाँ ठीक है, no goal in my head. Actually, that was kind of stupid. Now I should have been doing that consistently.
So what happened after 2013?
Then I stopped completely because there was no salary. So in fact, then I even broke that investment. I redeemed it. And फिर सब कुछ चल रहा है, just जैसे normally चल रहा था वैसे चल रहा था. अच्छा, at that point the health was with me. There was time, I was pretty young. So
you really scared us last year, Varun. And Pattu, just to let you know what we're talking about, we had a very serious health scare for Varun. And that got us all thinking and very worried. And perhaps, correct me if I'm wrong, Varun and Rhea, is the approach to life right now, and I might be completely wrong, I don't mean to judge, right? Is we're doing stuff that we really enjoy. We are in the creative space. Our target is to get as much work as possible. And then we hope for the best.
Exactly. That is what it is. We just hope for the best. We just hope that at one point everything will be fine. Like at the start of the podcast, you said something about about retirement plan. So when we think about our retirement plan, we are not really thinking about investing right now. We are thinking कि we are going to get a big project. और उस कोई big project से हम लोग कोई घर खरीद लेंगे या कोई land खरीद लेंगे, and that is our retirement thing.
You're waiting for a windfall.
Yeah. Maybe it's kind of stupid, but that's what we are expecting. At one point, we are going to break out. We are going to be a breakout star, and then money will follow, and then we'll invest in some kind of land or flats, and that is our retirement plan.
You represent a huge population, Varun, right? Not only that, there are several actors who've done exactly what you've said. They've got one big project, and I know them personally. Some of them who've they didn't even have supportive parents like Rhea, right? They ran away from home, came to Bombay, struggled in theater, slept. Let's not even get into that, right? Where they slept every night. But now they made it to big movies and have bought apartments on their own. But they represent, I'm very sure, without even looking into the stats, probably less than 1% of this entire population.
True.
And so on our show, Let's Get Rich with Pattu. And Pattu, let me ask you to come back in over here. There seem to be two parallel lines. A salaried individual and perhaps a Pattu fan who already has a target in sight, who knows the maths that has to fall into place for him to retire with a certain amount. taking into account inflation, etc., etc. And there's a large population that is focused on the present, creating good work, and is hoping for the best. How do we make these two parallel worlds collide?
I don't think they can ever collide, or they can probably conjoin at some point. But
conjoin is a better word. Yeah, right.
First of all, I would like to say that I admire risk takers, especially those who take risks with their careers. But there's a point when it has to kind of stop. That's the problem with entrepreneurs. Risk taking in the 20s, maybe in the right side of the 30s, less than up to 35 is perfect, and it's important to do that. I mean, unless you take those risks, you can never make it big if you have a passion and a dream. So that's absolutely great, and I truly admire that, because I have never taken those risks in life. I've taken a different kind of risk by choosing something, a path not trodden enough, but it was almost, it was a reasonable risk. But the kind of risks that actors or creative people take is sometimes an unreasonable risk. They have to go months or years without projects, even small ones. Forget about making it big and so on. So I admire that, and I think that's necessary. And I think people should not shy away from that. But
what would we do without the actors in our life? You're absolutely right. I mean, this world is just comprised of so many various people. And why must financial independence be geared towards only one, right? When everyone enhances our entire experience.
No, we need actors, but as an outsider, we just have wrong opinions about them, about how rich they are, how happy they are, but they are really not. I mean,
absolutely. Like, whatever opinions are there in the market of how rich actors, I mean, I'm sure the ones who are really successful and who are stars, they must be very well off.
So the first thing I would recommend is sit down and think about, these are my dreams. This is what I want to achieve in life. And what are those aspects of life that can prevent me from achieving those dreams? What can happen to me or my loved ones that can prevent me from achieving those dreams? For example, I can get hospitalized, and you just said that you've been through that before. And that is really scary, because and I have been also in that situation where it's a life changer. It looks as if you can never recover at some point. When the whole thing starts, it looks as if your life is going to change, or you may never be able to work normally. And so it's very, very scary. Similarly, hospitalization to a loved one, God forbid, death to the breadwinner, to the partner. So these are the big issues that can prevent a family from a family with non-salaried individuals from achieving their goals. I'm speaking in general, right? Now, one of the most important quotes I keep remembering is what Bill Gates said. Now, when Microsoft was a very small company, and Bill Gates was actually working out of his parents' garage, he had a few employees, the nerds, guys who were tinkering with computers, building computers, and the ones you see in movies and so on. He said even at that stage, he had 1 year's expenses in the bank as a, just in case he doesn't get the profits, he doesn't get the projects to sell his computers, sell his software, he could pay his employees. So that is the kind of vision that everybody needs that, but particularly non-salaried folk need that kind of vision. So everybody understands the need for an emergency fund, right? You have some kind of fixed deposit somewhere. Let's say your bike breaks down, your car, somebody comes and hits your car, the insurance doesn't pay and you have to pay money. Everything with a car is 2 times expensive than a bike, something like that. So everybody understands the need for an emergency fund. But in addition to an emergency fund, the non-salaried folk need a cash buffer, where they build this buffer for, let's say, worth of first initially, let's say 1 month expense, and then 3 months expense, and so on. So it doesn't matter whether you're going to get a project or not. It doesn't matter whether you're going to get paid next month or not. You have this buffer from which you're going to draw for your next month's daily expenses.
If you allow me, Pattu, I'm going to rename it the Freelancer Fund, right? And while it is an emergency fund for a salaried individual which takes care of laptop repair and phone repair. This is much more. It has to be much more substantial, where it takes care of no income for a few months. And so that needs to be maybe 9 to 12 to 15 times monthly expenses.
No, it takes time to build it. I mean, when you say 9 to 12, people will get scared. It will take a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years to build that kind of a huge buffer. But what I'm trying to say is, when you get a slightly bigger project and when you have a little extra money, that extra money can go into this buffer. You build it over time, over 6 months.
And is it the same fund as the emergency fund, of creating a new savings bank account and all of that?
At least mentally, it should be separate. I mean, it can be in the same bank, one FD for this, one FD for that, something like that. Any which way you like, but at least mentally it should be separate. You should say, this I'm not touching for, unless I have an emergency, I don't touch this FD. This is my buffer, cash buffer FD, which I'm going to use only if my projects dry up. So that's the kind of, if you have that buffer, it's going to make you sleep a lot better. You can
absolutely,
you can be a lot more relaxed. But let me repeat, it will take, depending on the avenue, it may take 2 to 3 years to build a 1 year or a 15-month buffer. So it will take time, but we have to aggressively build it. I would suggest that this buffer is one of the important priorities besides health insurance and life insurance. The investing in mutual funds, thinking about retirement, etc., all can wait. Once I have this buffer, I know that next month, if I'm out of work, I don't have to worry about the rent. I don't have to worry about groceries. I have this. Of course, I have to replenish it when the project does come. So I'm just saying, live off that buffer, learn to live off that buffer and replenish that buffer partly with the income, and then you can use the rest of the income for other sundries, wants, etc. and so on.
I guess to take half a step back, Varun and Rhea, is just calculate and figure out how much you need per month to just live. Rent, groceries, food, travel, what bills, right? Yeah. What is that amount? Is it 25,000 a month? Is it 50,000 a month? And then multiply it by maybe 3 months and then 6 months eventually, and try and build it up. Through, right? So this, I think, is a superb kind of foundation for anyone in the solopreneur and freelancer space.
What I would just like to add, Sid, is that we follow the living 1 month in advance kind of thing. We have our expenses for the next month, but a lot of time we face this, that that 1 month is gone, and then the second month also starts and nothing comes up. So when we get the next project, first we have to replenish that fund first, and then uske upar and then the whole the money that we get, the fees that we get, everything is over. So our life goes into just saving what we have spent and then saving it again, and then we are not really having any kind of fun. We are not really spending anything on us. We are just saving.
It's not easy. It's not easy, yes, without a doubt.
I agree. It's not easy. I mean, the problem is this. Most people have this problem. I want to invest, but I don't have the money to invest.
Yeah.
Because I'm just living paycheck to paycheck. In some sense, even whether you're salaried or not, in some sense it is from one paycheck to the other. But hopefully that will change because of your experience, as you grow in the industry. But until then, I think this base is very important, because it will, if you don't have this, and I'm again speaking in general, then we'll be going back to square one every time. Every time there's a huge expense, then our life it'll be like a pack of cards that falls down. That cannot happen. So we must have that basic foundation of an emergency fund, a cash buffer or a freelancer fund, as Siddhant said. And then, of course, the crucial things of life insurance and health insurance. In addition to that, I think freelancers or the non-salarieds also have to consider an accident insurance. Because they can, be hospitalized and out of action for several months. And for those several months, there'll be no income. So an accident insurance is something that is optional for the salaried, but I think is mandatory for the non-salaried.
That's so incredible. So how does this work, Pattu? Who do you go to? The same insurance companies who give you medical insurance? Are they? How does one get accident insurance?
There are general insurance companies which offer both health insurance and accident insurance. So they would sell this. Life insurers.
So it's
only
not
for
part of
life
your car or bike insurance, and it's not part of your medical insurance. It's a third thing you're saying.
Correct. This is only for, it's a personal accident policy.
And this is so apt because Varun and Rhea, you'll agree, if we don't turn up to work, the check will not come, right?
Yeah. Correct. Now, so I just wanted to wanted clarity regarding this accidental insurance. This is you're talking about the accidents that happen while we are working. So let's say if I am in an action scene and I break my back or break my neck, you're talking about that insurance?
No insurer will cover that, unfortunately.
Okay.
Why is that, Pattu?
It's because you chose to do it. It's a choice, right? This is, I think we should do this as a separate episode, because the definition of an accident is very nuanced. For example, if you say that I was about to open my bathroom door to take a bath or come out from a bath, and I just slipped and fell. Will the insurer pay? You slipped and fell, you had a strain, whatever, you couldn't go to work for some time and so on. Will the insurer pay? The insurer won't pay, because the insurer would say it is your responsibility to make sure that the bathroom floor is grime free. You get it, right? So it's a very nuanced thing. Although I say it's important, it doesn't mean you're going to get it. Or for example, if you had a piece of Lego your son was playing with and you stepped on it and slipped, no, it's your fault. You didn't take care of it. So it's a completely unforeseen event. So you were walking on the road and somebody came and dashed against you. That's something unforeseen. That's not something you could have anticipated or prepared for. That they will pay. There are different levels of it. But it's important, but you have to be careful about when it will pay and when it will not.
And is this affordable? I mean, do we know what kind of premiums are involved for, say, a 50 lakh cover or a 1 crore cover? I mean, now we're going into the pure term. I'm sure it's much lesser, right? The sums that are
there
showed.
are two things with it. One, it is much less expensive than a health insurance policy, thankfully.
Okay,
great. And the premium,
then that's affordable.
It's very affordable. The premiums also don't change with age much, because for the health insurance, every 5 years you will.
Right. Because an accident can happen to you at whatever age. I mean, there's no age aspect.
But the catch is, most insurers don't offer a huge cover like 50 lakhs or 1 crore. They offer like 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs. But it's something.
Which would be great. That would help us survive a year or two just for expenses.
Proportionally, the premiums will also be lower. It will be like a few K. So it's not, unduly expensive. It's quite affordable, but we should know when it would pay and when it will not. That's the only catch.
But that's a great thing.
Was it
go ahead, Varun.
What we have also, since we're talking about the medical, medical emergencies and all, so what we have done in the last year, what we did was, we have applied for a credit card and we have got a credit card, but we're not using that credit card. We're using it we have just kept it for emergency, as an emergency fund only. So just in case we get hospitalized or something of this sort happens, then we can use that credit card. But again, it's a debt. I mean, if we use it, it's a debt. So I mean, I think we are just trying to cope up with that. So
it's not a bad idea as long as you have the credit limit in cash somewhere else. You're just giving yourself some breathing space of 3 to 4 weeks to pay that credit card company, which is okay, because you suddenly need some liquidity. You use a credit card, which makes sense. But as long as you pay it in full, it's fine, absolutely fine. But you would also need a health insurance, a proper health insurance.
We are health insurance. That's another topic. I got hospitalized last year, and then I did not have health insurance because, again, never crossed my mind that I should have an health insurance or mediclaim or something like that. Then when I applied for the health insurance, I got one. And now the conditions that are supposed to that I want covered, they are not covered until 3 more years. So 3 years that I'll have to pay the premium, and then only will that be covered. I'm diabetic, so all of that stuff.
So that's an issue. Yeah. It is certainly also the premiums can also increase. You have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Because each time.
The same insurance that we got for Rhea got it for 6,000 from I think Max, and I got it for 13,000, 13K.
That's
the same cover. Yeah.
That's the loading because of the of your condition.
Yeah, pre-existing. Yeah.
So and that's see, every time these companies don't make enough profits, they will take it out on us. Right? So the premiums will jack up. So you'll have to be prepared for that.
And yet it is the smartest 13,000 you spent, right? Pattu?
Yeah.
That is true. That is absolutely true.
So to revise a little bit before we move on, for a solopreneur and a freelancer, I think the basics are to try and get an emergency fund in place for however many number of months, which could then support you when there is no income. Get your medical insurance in place, get your now accident insurance in place. A very smart suggestion by Pattu. Get your life insurance in place, perhaps, to support your partner. And then once these basics and foundations are laid, Pattu, what's next? Can we then start thinking about investing? And how?
See, I have a little anecdote to share. So when you asked me about this episode, I was very reluctant to talk about it because I am the opposite of a salaried, of an entrepreneur, of a non-salaried person, of a freelancer. Because I have a nice, cushy government job where my retirement age is 65. And so what am I going to talk about how am I going to advise people in this? So as I was thinking about this, something happened in the last couple of weeks. Now I have a relative who runs a catering business. So she does it from her house, and she services mainly senior citizens, etc. in our locality. And like you, she has to get up every day and go to the kitchen and cook. If she does not, she's essentially a daily wage earner in some sense. Of course, she won't get it daily, but it's essentially that. Now, her husband, my cousin, got hospitalized. It's a serious issue. He almost died. If we had delayed taking him to the hospital, he would no longer be with us. But he's now back home, but he's still sick. But during those 10, 15 days when he was in hospital, he still had to somehow turn up to the kitchen and offer the catering, do the catering. She could not get somebody else to do it for her. And I think that's a problem for many non-salaried folk, maybe not so much for you guys, but for those who are running a shop or for doing some kind of, offering some kind of service.
Plumbers, carpenters, Uber drivers. I mean, you cannot even think of the day that you're unwell and cannot show up to work, which means there's no money.
So,
totally.
So there must be some mechanism where they must think about the business and try to delegate as much as possible, wherever applicable. It may not be applicable to all spheres, but wherever applicable, they must delegate so that if they can take a few days off and still things will run. The machinery won't stop just because they don't turn up to work. And I think that's a crucial thing which many people don't factor in. They just things are so busy, they're just caught up in the hustle and bustle of it. They don't take time to do this. And they always assume that they can keep working forever. So, of course, ideally, we should all work until we drop dead. That
would be the best life. Yeah.
That's the ideal situation. But life has other plans, right? I mean, so working beyond a point should become an option. That is the retirement. That's a simple way to define retirement planning. There's beyond the age, turning up for work should be optional. You work to keep you active, mentally engaged, so on and so on, but you don't do it for the money. You don't do it for the grind. So, the way to do it is to start delegating and start looking in the future. How am I going to build a business that will sustain in spite of me turning up for work? I mean, I don't need to turn up for work. It will still work. I can just look at it from time to time. I can manage it with much less time than what I'm doing now. That's a plan that they should have. And probably after that, they can start looking at their short-term goals, long-term goals, and start talking about investing and saving.
I'm very hopeful about this topic because Varun and Rhea, when I first broached this topic with Pattu, by the way, the first day we met Pattu, and for several days after that, there was just so much enthusiasm and so much excitement to do this show with us. And the first time I saw him kind of take a step back was when I suggested investing for freelancers, right? This particular topic. And then this incident happened. And I'm hopeful with this episode, Pattu's going to start sleeping on this and think about this entire universe of ours. And who knows, in the days ahead can come up with some amazing solutions.
Yeah.
But I think we've covered a few particular things. And Pattu, I remember second thing you told me, very interesting, right? About how not only solopreneurs and freelancers should figure out how the money can continue to come in when they go on vacation or when they are hospitalized or when they're unable to go to work apart from having your accident insurance. But also you need money to grow money, right? Right. And perhaps the key to our lives, Varun and Rhea, is finding alternate sources of money coming in. If we are full-time actors, I don't know. We need to think of maybe we have an acting course on YouTube. Maybe we have, you train other teachers in Kalari and have them take classes on your behalf, right? I think that is going to be the magic and the solution where we have several taps turned on where money is coming in based on our talent and our passion and our expertise. And once we have our basics in place, then we can start thinking about joining the world of making money of equity.
Absolutely. We often discuss that we don't really have any off days. I mean, consciously we don't have any off days. We cannot have any off days. We have to work 365 days, 7 days a week. हमको करना ही पड़ेगा. तभी हम लोग कुछ कर पाएंगे. तभी कुछ हो पाएगा. We have to diversify our work only. We cannot be just actors. We are just not going to survive if we are just actors.
And somewhere I guess where we are lacking is like as Siddhant you just said that we can diversify and we can go on YouTube and we can do like the same skill but just diversify it even more.
We're the creative people. We'll come up with the ideas.
Yeah.
Also, the sample size in the market, it's too much. If I cannot be arrogant about my skill because there are many others who are even more skilled than me and or how much ever I think I'm skilled, मुझसे अच्छा कोई है.
But there's only one sexiest man alive. and that is Varun's viral short, very slow-mo videos he posts online. Anyway, jokes aside, Pattu, anything you'd like to add in terms of once we get establish these basics in, because the world of SIPs does not exist for us. We can't have systematic because, is lump sum the only way? And I think you have some very strong views about this entire world of SIPs.
I am against the idea of starting an SIP. I'm not against the idea of investing.
Beautiful.
I'm not against
I hear drum rolls. Go ahead.
No, I'm not against the idea of investing in mutual funds. I'm just against the idea of starting SIPs because there are many people who say if you do an SIP, you will become disciplined. An investment product cannot make you disciplined. Either you are disciplined or you're not. It is a mental state of mind. Somebody else or giving money to somebody else can't make you disciplined. That's just silly. That's propaganda, right? So what I would recommend is just invest when you can. Don't fret too much about it.
The sense of calm and relief coming down on us, but with those simple words.
It is just that make sure these steps are in place. So you now have a proper foundation. I mean, if a wind blows, maybe the top 2 floors of your financial castle will break down, but your foundation will remain intact at all times. Once that is in place, you are so much more confident. You can build it back. It's not that big a deal. So I would say just invest when you can. But what I would recommend is once everything is in place, list your short-term goals. What are your expenses every year? For example, a car insurance, the life insurance premiums, or for people who have children, the school fees, that's a big chunk of money. So those are your annual expenses. How am I going to handle those annual expenses? So again, you can have a buffer for that. That's the only way to do it. You can just put it in your Freelancer Fund or cash buffer, whatever it is. Put it on that and pay the annual expenses from there. So once you have this machinery where you say, look, I have now created a situation where I can take care of these annual expenses properly, regardless of how frequently I'm able to get projects. Once that is there, you can then talk about what is my goal in 2 years, in 3 years. I want to go on a holiday. I want to buy a bigger car. I want to buy a bigger camera, whatever. Just whatever it is. So those are short-term goals. You can just start a simple fixed deposit for that. Today we have flexi deposit products where you can just put in money whenever you feel like. Right? In a recurring deposit, you say I'm going to pay 1,000 rupees. It's a fixed amount, but you have flexi deposits. So one day you can put in 1,000, one day you can put in 500, whatever it is. It's flexible, and you can just leave it there until your need comes after 2 years or 3 years and take out the money.
Yeah, that is great because we didn't know about the flexi deposit thing. That will work for us like really well because a month we can probably deposit 10,000, and the next month we won't even have the 1,000 rupees to.
This is only with private banks or with national banks?
Should be available everywhere.
All the banks.
All the banks. And the advantage is just one deposit. You don't have to open multiple deposits and worry about how many accounts do I have, when does this mature, when does that. That's a big hassle. It's just one deposit, one big thing you can just put in money. And you can also take out proportionally. You can take out any amount you want. You don't need to break the whole deposit. That's the flexibility.
And I think they have some minimum balance or something also like
that would depend on the bank. Yes, that you'll have to check with the bank.
Okay.
It can be
on that amazingly overwhelming feeling of hope and joy. I'm going to take this chance since we're running out of time. At least if we are to have this episode as one part, if we are to do it at 2 parts, Varun and Rhea will reach out again in the near future to try and track how the freelancer community is doing. Sure. And I think it's a very important part of our lives. Pattu, thank you for giving us so much hope. I think we've covered the basics for freelancers in this community. I'd like to end by saying a very important thing, since we like philosophy on the show as well, right? On episode 4, Varun and Rhea, we had a superstar on our show. His name was Shubham. He was a techie from Hyderabad. Techies, by the way, are big fans of Pattu for some reason, right?
They're salaried.
They're salaried.
That is the only reason.
But they're so cool. If you listen to the Shubham episode, you'll know what I mean.
Okay.
And this guy was in his mid-20s and feverishly working towards retiring at 30 or maybe 32.
Wow.
And he was a superstar because he had his plan in place and his money was going to 100% add up to that amount. Because thanks to Pattu, you can do the math backwards and plan for your future. But then I asked him a question, why are you so eager to retire? Why are you so eager to... What's the issue? And then you won't realize that the world of salaried individuals isn't particularly nice. You have bad bosses, you have long hours, you feel trapped in a certain way. And he said, I want to retire so that I can do what I want to later on. And you guys and the world of freelancers are already doing what you love to do and what you want to. So we have an amazing starting point. Don't feel that you're, a few steps behind in this world of investing and achieving financial independence. You're doing what you love. There's no better way to live this life. But we're here to help on Let's Get Rich with Pattu. Pattu is here to help. And I hope this episode has given you a few insights and a few bits of hope.
Yes.
Perhaps we'll come back to you in a few months to see how it's going.
Yeah.
Totally.
Sure.
Pattu, any last words? Thank you so much for this episode.
It's
been a special one.
Having you on the show. It was real fun. It's always fun when somebody else joins in. And one of my dreams on the bucket list is to act someday. So maybe I'll reach out to you.
Sure. In the next 10 years, when we become like something big hotshot, we'll do our own nepotism.
Varun and Rhea, you must take a look at the artwork, right? That's how Pattu looks in his film role. By the way, this artwork has become quite viral as well. It's being the topic of discussion for a number of people, especially Pattu fans. But there's one person in the world who doesn't like it and thinks it's cringe.
I'm too old for that. The young guys like it.
So promise me when you eventually do your own nepotism and cast him in a role in your own movie, that is the look that you give him.
We'll definitely. Definitely.
Sure.
Have a great day. Have a great week. All you listeners of Let's Get Rich with
Good day,
Pattu. This show is nothing without you unless you send in your questions and you know, our doors are open. You can be part of the show. Speak about your world, your life, and how you want to achieve financial independence, and Pattu will be here for you. Till the next episode. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.